Welcome to Changing the Sales Game on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know, my guest and I are always excited that you show up to listen to the show. So here's the deal. You know, we're talking about changing our sales game, changing really whether you're a corporate business owner, doesn't matter. Change is inevitable, and sales is usually a huge component of whatever your role or position is within your organization. At the core, my guests and I were just chatting about this before hitting the recording. It really boils down to communication and having superpowers as it relates to our communication skills and just getting better and better every day. So in the show notes, you'll see my Linktree notes. My communication style assessment is in there. It's my gift to you. 2 reports, you know the routine. 1 will spotlight your natural communication superpowers. Important to know how your message naturally lands. The flip side, your lowest score, that to me is the more important report because it really shines a light on a potential blind spot when you're communicating with people who are 180 degrees different than you. So when you're trying to make a sale or connect or get a promotion, whatever it might be, if that person communicates differently than you, you're probably in trouble. So read those reports, and I hope the information helps you navigate or change your game, sales game or otherwise. Now, to set the tone for my guests and I in our conversation, the quote I chose this week is by Hugh Downs, and he says, "To say my fate is not tied to your fate is like saying your end of the boat is sinking." I thought that was a good visual. Now, I've always been part of a team, even now as a business owner. And here's the deal. I've learned, maybe the hard way, that I can't achieve success alone. So both while raising my kids and starting the business, I needed experts to help me understand the business, technology, admin work, but I also needed people on the other end to help me with my kids because it's pretty hard to be 2 places at once. Well, last year I sponsored a book it's called Ready, Connect, Grow. And the authors who contributed to the anthology were from different countries, different walks of life, different businesses. And I could tell you the only way we created a #1 international bestseller was by supporting the book and publishing it together and putting that energy behind it. So who is my amazing guest today, where we're going to talk about team and leadership and all these cool things that boil down to good communication? Well, his name is Ryan Charterina, and I know I probably said that wrong, Ryan. And here's the deal. I'll just use the word Ryan. So Ryan works in 3 major pillars when working with his clients. He helps business owners transform their business and lives through implementing EOS, a content production company called Blink Studios, which helps professionals, service businesses create and deliver their content to generate brand awareness and leads. Most importantly, he has a family of 3, his wife, Brit, their son, Dean, and of course, their dog, Finn. So Ryan, thanks for coming on the show and having some fun with me today.
Happy to be here. Happy Friday and approaching Father's Day weekend. So my first Father's Day.
Yay.
Sleep through the night. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. It's like when you're a kid, what do you want? You know, the song used to be, I want my 2 front teeth. When you become a new parent, all you want is like an hour of consistent sleep. Right. I want to share something, right? When you and I met, and this is the power of being authentic and not being a jerk of trying to sell your wares on LinkedIn, which is where Ryan and I connected. So just very briefly, Ryan sent me a lovely LinkedIn message that he's doing a local publication for Jersey businesses. And he wanted to connect and see if I'd be interested in sharing some of my business wisdom, because I had been in business so long, for this publication to help others. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. What's he going to try to sell me? Was exactly what was in my thought, right? I shared this with Ryan the first time we met. Well, fast forward, he and I did connect. We had a beautiful conversation. I am going to be part of that publication. And he never tried to sell me anything. He was truly trying to get to know me, learn from me. We had an awesome conversation. I fell in love with him. He could be my child. I thought, what a great kid. What a smart kid. And I offered him to be on the show. I said, let's promote your business, man. I like what you're doing, what you're about, and your authenticity without vomiting how you can help me, and truly taking those steps to get to know me. So I'm telling you guys, don't vomit sales on people. You got to get to know people, build those relationships. And I promise you, magic and opportunity happens. And Ryan didn't say, Con, can I be on he asked me for nothing. And I loved that. And that's why I offered for him to be on the show. So again, I don't know what your experience was with me, Ryan, that I was a talker, but I really hope you understand that's why I offered you to be on the show, because I think you're pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it just starts with like help first. The true intention of why I do what I do is to help people live a better life. There's so many deeper things there that I'm sure we'll get into later, but it's just nice connecting with people who, share in the same mindset as you. Because we had a great conversation on so many different topics that were so relevant to what we do for work, and then also, at home. So it was just really refreshing to connect, and I'm looking forward to sharing, some of your insights. You've been doing this a while, and now somebody's going to read this publication and say like, wow, that's really what's important. Or not all those things that I thought were important. That's really what's important, because Connie's been doing this for a long time. So, I think it's really important for people to seek out, people like yourself to, hey, have those conversations, learn something.
Yeah. Because we can't know everything, even at my age. I don't know everything, but you got to ask questions. You got to be present, and you have to be open to learning and hearing and thinking, well, that doesn't work for me. Oh, I kind of like that idea. Let me play with it. Because every idea isn't a good idea or isn't relevant to you and your situation. But if you're not listening to try to grow, you're dying. It's a slow death. And that to me is just a dangerous way to live life, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So, all right, my first question I got to ask, what do you think are the key characteristics of a high performing team? Because you're young. So I love to hear this, because generationally, we see different things, upbringing, your roles in business, all of those things. So what to you is a high performing team?
I think if you ask certain generations and which is why I love talking to all different types of people, you're going to get a different answer here. From what I'm seeing with my generation, the primary feeling is culture based. People want to feel like they're actually a part of something bigger than themselves. At least I'm speaking for my generation, and it's seeming to pop up more and more now. Where a high performing team is one where, we have terms in EOS to kind of like put a frame around this, and it's right people, right seats. And so what does that really mean? Right people being people who share in your core values. This is all culture stuff. If people don't share in your core values, commonly what I see is symptoms. So you say, oh yeah, they didn't show up on time, or oh, they forgot to do that. Or like these things start popping up, and you're like, they're really capable. They're really good at their job, but for some reason they're not clicking. And that there's a lot to unpack there, but from what I've seen, the high performing team is shared values, whether that's, some teams want to win. Some teams want to feel good. Some teams want to be a part of something. Like, it's all different types of things. The business owner can set that. Who do they want to surround themselves with? And then on the other side, it's like, all right, the job that you're doing, whether you're a business owner, a leadership team member, business owners tend to have a lot of hats in the business of things that they're not really that great at. So high performing team is one where everyone shares in the core values, and then everyone is doing what they love to do and what they're really, really good at. That's perfect. And, part of what I do is help teams get to that. And it's never going to be perfect, but like, that is the ultimate goal. Like, if you walk into work, everybody in the business walks into work, say 9:00, and they're like, I love being here, and I love doing what I'm doing. Like, if you get to that point, business is so easy.
And profitable. You're going to make more money when everybody's firing on all cylinders. We're moving the ship in the right direction together. That's how you get to your destination. It was funny when you said right people, right seat. I can remember, back when I was still in corporate, and banks in the 90s, Ryan, were going through what we would call bank mergers. So it was merger mania. Every other day, we felt like we were getting bought out by a bigger fish in the sea, so to speak. So I remember I walked into one, I was part of the executive team, and figuring out who's going to be where, and, what consolidation and all, because there's a lot of moving parts. And I remember I walked in, and the new person coming in from the other organization had these yellow Post-it notes. And I looked at them and I said, okay, tell me, what am I looking at? Share with me so I understand, because I knew the players on my side. He knew the players on his side, and we were trying to meld. And he had 3 people. And I said, who chose those 3 people? They would not have been 3 people I chose. One of the other executives. They were friends. He was protecting. They were not the best person. And so I kind of bit my tongue, and he and I became really good friends because he read my body language very quickly. And he goes, I want to play poker with you, Connie. He goes, look, off the record, just share with me why do you feel that? I know what the argument on their behalf was. What do you see that maybe wasn't shared with me? And then who do you think might be a better person? Because we were trying to put people through all the divisions. Not that we were firing them, but the seat they were in, we go through this protection thing instead of, and you know what ends up happening? So they ended up moving these people based on my recommendation. This is why it was so important and why I'm sharing the story. The people were happier in the new jobs versus retaining where they would be with their boss. And the people who were put in that position, that should have been put in that position, made that division thrive. So back in the day, putting people in the right seat wasn't a thing. It was put the Post-it notes, put a name so I could protect my friends, or, well, they've been here longer than Connie, they should get the push. No, if they're not prepared or able to do that job, why are we putting them in it? So your generation, this cultural making a difference, working as a team, it's a real thing. And I think it's going to propel organizations forward. So I like what I'm hearing with what you just said, because I do think it's right people, right seat, as well as the core values, because that's the other thing. I remember and then I have another question for you. I don't want to do all the talking, but this is important. When a bank came in to buy us, and I had the 2 babies at home, and I thought, I can't work for them. Their values didn't meet my values. I knew I was going to be miserable. And that's not okay, to come home and add that misery to your family. So immediately I saw the writing on the wall, and I said to my husband, I want to go in, I want to get fired, and I want to start my own business, because this is nonsense. There's so many misfires, and I want to do better, right? I want to do better personally. And I had 2 babies at home when I pulled the trigger. So it's interesting. Values, right people, right? All of these things, everybody knows it, but we don't do it. And that to me is dangerous. So anything you want to add before I ask my next question?
Yeah, it's almost at the point where clients and people I talk to, we prioritize culture over job capabilities.
Yep.
And I'll kind of elaborate on that, because if you bring someone into your business that does not share in your values, 1, they're not going to be happy. 2, most of the people that share in the values in the business are not going to be happy. And then on the actual performance side, like if somebody really wants to learn something, like if they genuinely want to do something, they're able to be trained. You cannot train values. It is almost impossible to train someone to have a positive mindset, or to be growth oriented, or to do the right thing. Like these are, me and you had a great conversation about this. Those are things when you're raised as a kid, those values are put into you at a very young age. And it's part of your environment. It is so challenging to be able to change those and try to train people on their values. You want to be seeking people that have those values and a desire to do the job well. Not saying hire underqualified people, but ultimately a lot of times, people leave because they're not a values fit. Or they don't agree with the boss. It's one of the 2. It's
funny. When you were talking before about the right people, right seat values, I have a friend, his name is Kevin Hancock. He runs Hancock Lumber, the generational company, is one of the oldest companies in the country. And I think I shared the story with you. He got a spasmodic disorder on his voice. So it's like this, right? And well, initially, now years later, it's not painful, but it was painful. So as a new CEO, his dad had passed, he had to step in. So he's in overwhelm. He gets this disorder, and the executives would come to him and he would just say, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And he shares that their answer was better than anything he could have come up with, because he wasn't an expert in that particular division, whether it was the logging, the cutting down of the trees, or the distribution or whatever. Well, fast forward in the past decade, his company, as he's dispersed this power, now he's written books, he's doing leadership across the country, creating programs for others to thrive. But in the past decade, his company's net profit, after taking out all the costs, was greater than everything over the past 100 whatever years that his ancestors had generated. So this disbursement of power is real. And I think we live by the 80-20 rule. I'm fascinated by his statistics because he does surveys all the time. And the satisfaction of his employees, he has a 97% I'm happy and a 97% retention. And he said, so one day I go, what happened with the other 3%? Who'd you tick off? He goes, they moved. And it's boots on the ground with that type of industry. It wasn't like they can work remotely. So think about that. He doesn't believe in the 80-20. He believes if I get the right people and the values are the same and the culture is the same and we're in this together and you bring your expertise and I bring my expertise and I'm not the boss, we're all the bosses cumulatively, what a difference that can make. So what you're saying just makes so much sense. And there are examples out there where it truly does work.
I love it. It's such a beautiful, some people despise seeing like perfection, but if you bring up the pro sports teams like Tom Brady, like that is a high performing team because they are all 100% on the same page with their role in that team and then the greater good of that team. And they're going to each individually do what it takes in their spot to make that happen, which I think is it's just being a part of something bigger than yourself. Really cool.
That's parking the ego though, right?
Yeah.
I'm the smartest person in the room. You're not going to get very far because you're going to repel people, right? People aren't going to want to work with you or be on your team, and they're going to fight you and try to sabotage you instead of supporting you to push you forward. So it's important. We have to be on the same page. How have you seen, the people you've worked with, how can leaders effectively motivate and engage their team members so that we could accomplish all these things we're talking about?
Yeah, I think we were talking about this before. I mean, communication is so important around the entire organization. And that starts with, hey, where are we going? What is the vision of this business? Because, a lot of times I talk to business owners and they're like, well, my people never really bring up ideas on how to make this better. It's like, well, what's the vision of the organization? And, many times it's in their head. It's never been put on paper. It's never been shared with anybody else. Nobody really knows. So first off, get that vision on a piece of paper and then share it with everybody and say, hey, we're doing X in revenue, and a whole different conversation there. But hey, we're doing X in revenue. Next year we want to do this. We want to profit this much. These are the things, we're going to be hiring somebody. Let people know that. They can't help you if you don't articulate the vision for them. So first step, get that vision on a piece of paper. And then, what we're looking for after that is, are people really on our bus? Are they on our team, or are they just kind of there to go through the motions? So keep sharing that vision over and over again and get them involved in the vision as much as you can so that they're bought into it as well. I ran an electrical prefab shop, and, we had 50 plus, people in our organization, 15 offshore drafters. So, this was very important for us sharing the vision and then seeing people, because you're always going to have people who, you share the vision, they look over and they're like, oh yeah, sure, they're going to double the business in a few years. And then you do it again. And they're like, and you share, hey, this is what we set out to do in the next 90 days. And we actually did it. They're like, oh, trust goes up, confidence goes up. They're like, wow, they're serious. Do it again the next quarter. So people are either leaning in or they're leaning out. And so, I know there's business owners out there who have people that are like, yeah, they're good one week and not so great the next. That is like the ultimate way, like, hey, it's either you're in or you're out. We're rowing that way. I'd love for you to come with us. If not, you may be a better fit somewhere else.
It's funny because I think sometimes people self-select out or in. And that to me, that's a good thing because my career, I never wanted to fire anyone. Like I feel people are valuable and they all bring something to the table. But if they're not in the right job for whatever reason, or their life changed and now it's not a fit, self-select, look for something else or take the time. But, I used to let my people know, look, if you're not happy here, I know you need the paycheck. I understand, but you got to start looking for a job. Like, we don't want to fire anybody, but on the same token, I got things to do, right? Your teammates are relying on you. So again, are you in or out? And I think we have respectfully these candid conversations so that we understand each other. But now I know how I can help you. That's the bottom line. I never want to hurt anyone, but you got to tell me how I could potentially help, but I can't let you sabotage the team. That's not okay. And as a leader, that's my responsibility, right? So I think that open communication and over and over and over and over again, and then having a plan to execute, you can't just give lip service, right? There has to be this ongoing commitment from the leader all the way down. What are the most effective strategies that you've seen for, like you've described these goals, 90 days or whatever? What are some of the strategies that you've used so that you can achieve those team goals microscopically, globally, whatever it might be?
Yeah, so it starts right with the owner. A lot of the times, no matter how big or small a business is, you see public companies, they have roadmaps, they have stockholders that they have to make sure that the plan is being met. Entrepreneurs don't want to listen to plans and don't want to follow plans. However, in order to be intentional about achieving a certain goal in the fastest period of time, you can resist it all you want. But getting that vision on a piece of paper is going to eliminate so much wasted time and energy and money and blood, sweat, tears. Because if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So it starts with the owner, get that vision on a piece of paper, throw a really big 10-year goal out there, and then just keep whittling it down. Hey, what do we need to do in 3 years to make sure that we get to that 10-year? And then, hey, all right, if we want to be there in 3 years, what do we have to do this year to be on track? And get really specific with it. Work with your leadership team being, hey, who's head of sales, marketing, operations, finance, and do this exercise together. You'd be really surprised, and people are going to start leaning in more. Hey, what do you think? You think we can actually get to that revenue? Because ultimately, those people they're the ones that have to make it happen. So, making and creating extensions of yourself starts with figure out the vision, break it down 10 years, 3 years, 1 year, and then 90-day chunks. So typically what we recommend is after a long period of time when the leadership team feels comfortable with this goal setting, every person in the business has a 90-day priority for themselves so that, hey, they're being held accountable and they're holding themselves accountable to make sure, hey, this is how you make an impact in the business. And it's not like manager down to the person. It's a collaboration. Hey, what sorts of things in order to achieve this? What priorities, what things do we need to work on this next 90 days? You incorporate that and then everyone is truly bought in. They understand the impact. And it just eliminates so much wasted time and energy.
And it's funny because as you were saying that, I'm thinking, okay, marketing. Well, marketing is doing research out there. So if trends are shifting and our plan is to create X, but really the demand is Y, well, we're failing. If I'm in a vacuum saying I'm the CEO, go, nope, this is the product I want or service I want to bring to market. Meanwhile, marketing is going, that's not what we're seeing. But if we're not communicating, they're doing their research in a vacuum. I'm creating products or services in a vacuum. And then you have operations saying, wait a minute, they just changed regulations. We can't do what either one of you are trying to do. And then you have IT weighing in saying, wait a minute, there's automation. Those fees have gone up exponentially because, Salesforce or whatever tracking system, the expense has gone up because of inflation. So if you don't have all the minds in the room saying, whoa, I like that idea, it's not going to work in this 90 days, but let's put that for the second quarter of the year. But you have to have these conversations. And that's the danger. And I think my friend Kevin, he did such a nice job because as soon as unfortunately, he had to have the disorder for him to have that revelation of, I can't talk. What do you think? Right? Literally, that's all he could get out of his mouth. and I asked him in one of my interviews with him, because he's been on several times on the show. And he said, Con, I wouldn't change a thing, because I wouldn't be who I am. My team wouldn't be, we wouldn't be thriving. I wouldn't be helping other organizations. That needed to happen for this. It was a blessing. So I think that's the other thing. The trajectory changes because of something. And is it better? Well, then we have to embrace that, and he did. And so he's doing exactly what you're saying. They're always in the room together, say, but wait a minute, here's a problem with getting the logs now that we don't have enough water, the tides have changed, whatever. But I need to know that. And if I'm in operations, I don't know what's happening, in the forest. So we have to make sure that we communicate across the board. Yeah, it's fascinating how humans, we think we know everything and we don't. Some love to collaborate. I'm a collaborator. Others don't want it because I know better than you. And I just think ego, to me, that's where that word ego keeps popping up. We have to park our ego a little bit. Talk to me about, so we have all these goals, right? I understand, start with the end in mind, and then you backtrack to create the plan. Makes sense, right? I have the vision of the house, I have the architecture, and then I have the construction guy putting each brick down, right? So I get that whole premise. How do we measure, or how do you measure or help your teams measure and track the performance of the team, as well as the trajectory of the goals?
Yeah, this ties directly to the goals. And I mean, I'm a huge numbers nerd because I honestly, it just tells such a story. So setting up your weekly metrics, why weekly? Well, we recommend meeting as a leadership team every week and then reviewing those numbers every week. And down the road, at some point, we should be able to go up to any employee and be like, hey, what does success look like for you this week? And they should be able to tell you that. If they're able to do that, they know how to make an impact in the organization because we've planned it out from leadership team all the way down to, the admin. It doesn't matter. Everyone needs a number so that they're able to know, hey, like they come home on a Friday, come home to their house, their husband, wife, kids, whatever. And they say, hey, you know what? I did a great job this week. I was supposed to do 5, I did 7. Great. You give someone a target to hit, and they're going to exceed it. So in terms of tracking that, tie that right to the goals, whether it's like a revenue goal, an actions goal, you for sales, these are massively important to make sure that those inputs equal the outputs. And a common thing we see, especially, with sales is, I'm making my calls. Yeah, I'm doing the things. And then turns out revenue goes down in a few weeks or months. So those leading indicators, if we're not putting the inputs in, our goals are not going to be hit. So making sure that we're not just tracking things quarterly, come out of the quarter and say, oh, wow, profit wasn't really what we thought it would be. It's like, well, have you been tracking it weekly? So I highly recommend tracking certain metrics weekly. So that you don't get surprised at the end of the quarter where you're like, oh, wow, our profit was like 1% and we thought it was going to be 5. We have to be intentional, like you said, the end in mind, and then put that all throughout the business.
Yeah, every department has to have whatever the goal is. And it's funny because in sales, I hear all the time, they need to make more calls. And I think, okay, pause. Maybe they do. I don't know, right? We have to, again, there's a lot of moving parts, especially in sales. So, but here's the thing. If you work under me and you're really uncomfortable making phone calls, but you're really good live networking, palm to palm, out and about. But I'm saying to you, no, we don't have time for that. I need you to make 100 phone calls. I'm taking you out of your natural environment where you can generate business and now tying your hands and making you do something that's miserable. And now you're getting on the phone and you're ineffective. So that 100 phone call was an absolute, you spent hours waste of time. There was no revenue, no results, although you made your 100 phone calls. So we count numbers sometimes, which yes, we need metrics, we need numbers. but are the numbers representative of the core skill? Do they need training? Do they need coaching? Are they not the right person for that job, right? Maybe I need two people, you to do the networking. Man, go out there and you network your brains out. I want you to do 10 networking events, but you know what, Connie, you're going to sit and you're going to make the 100 phone calls because you like being on the phone. We have to make sure we deploy the talent properly so that we're not creating angst and animosity, but we're having people thrive. And that's part of what you're talking about. Be careful. Numbers are great. We cannot measure a number. Oh, you didn't meet your goals, make more phone calls. Meanwhile, you suck on the phone, right? There's other ways I could get you to perform exponentially, and it doesn't always have to be the telephone. So yeah, I think we mismanage the resources as well as the metrics. We read the metrics the way we want because we can make numbers say anything we want. I think we have to look at it with an element of reality on top of what the numbers are saying. And that goes back to having the end game. What are the real metrics? And then do we have the skill to execute the metrics? Because the metrics are great, but if my people can't do what I need them to do, you failed. And so we're not even getting out of the starting gate.
It's the common end in mind thing. Like, what does success look like for the sales department every week? Like, define what you want to equal your goals, and then work your way back. What actions do we have to do? It could be a million different things. Could be networking, could be email, whatever it is. What inputs do we need to get the outputs to set the business on to the goals that we want to accomplish?
Yeah. And some people are really good at numbers and some people are really good at the soft skills, but well, then maybe you need two people to do what needs to get done, right? I'm just throwing out at ideas here, but yeah, I think it's important. We have to understand the numbers and the talent to be able to drive it forward. Last question, because we're out of time, but I want to make sure I answer this. I believe in systematizing things. If I do something 3 times in a week, I go, yep, I got to systematize that. I have to create whatever that is. And then I hand it off to my assistant to do it because she's really good at that. I'm not good at getting in the weeds. She is. So when I tell her the vision and I go, look, I've done it 3 times. We have to automate this because I'm wasting time. Instead of 5 minutes, I could do that in 30 seconds. I've just saved myself time, right? When or how can business owners identify which processes really do need to create systems behind it? You can't systematize everything.
I mean, for me, we could tackle anything at any time. The most important thing for business owners, I hear this a lot, is where, hey, I don't have enough time to get to that. No, it's not that you don't have enough time. It's that you don't have priorities. So priority wise is, all right, what process is hurting us the most right now? Is it like, for example, if you're a contractor, is it is it the sales side? Is it the operations side? Start there. Because a lot of business owners feel that power of, I have to do everything right now, especially nowadays with social media and all the unrealistic expectations. We can't do everything right now. And I'm speaking to myself. This is a moment for me as well. We can't do everything right now. But planning it out and saying, hey, this next 90 days, we're currently bottlenecked here, like marketing. We don't have the right stuff in marketing. Let's fix the marketing process. We come back after the 90 days. Wow, we have so many leads, and I'm sure you're familiar with this sales to operations handoff where it's we sold a bunch of stuff, but then operations can't deliver on it.
Yep.
And it's all right, now what? So being on the same page there is really important. But in terms of the process, start with the ones that are hurting you the most, and then just one at a time. Fix the issue, the root of the issue, and then move on to the next one, and then move on to the next one. I mean, in 90-day chunks, if you really fix a process, at the end of the year, that's 4 major processes that are now done. And now you've systematized your business, and then continue and always update. I mean, every year we recommend looking back at those processes. Are we getting the results we want out of them? Are people actually following the process? Because, that's a whole different conversation, but that's just a 90-day approach. Which one's hurting us the most at that time?
And prioritizing, because you might have 3 things that need to be addressed. So the first thing is, can we handle all 3? financially, from a time element, whatever it is, executionable, right? Because if I'm working on other projects, you can't throw 3 more projects on me to get rid of these bottlenecks. So then what is the priority? That should be the first one. And then next quarter we can work on whatever. But you're right. And I'll tell you, I'm victim to that too, right? Oh, that has to be done now. And my assistant goes, no, we can't do that. I go, why not? She goes, do you understand? And then she'll show me, right, the game plan, right, or template or whatever, working on spreadsheet. And I go, oh, I forgot about that. Yep. Right. So it's all these things are happening behind the scenes, and we're moving forward. And the other thing you said, I think, is real important. I reiterate more than I should probably, because I want to always deliver for my clients. I never want them walking away feeling, really, that was it. I want them walking away, go, holy crap, we didn't know we were getting that much. Also, by the reiteration, you make the programs better and better and better so we could get there faster. So when people give me feedback, I go, my God, that's a great idea. I have to make that change. That makes so much more sense. It's going to be easier to teach or easier to deliver, easier to execute. So you have to listen to feedback all the time and then up your game, up your game, up your game. And it makes such a difference from a profitability standpoint.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, we're out of time, but here's the deal, guys. If everything Ryan is saying, you're thinking, I think I need help, please reach out to him. And all of this will be in the show notes, but let me give it to you verbally. His email is ryan.charterina@eosworldwide.com. Website, ryancharterina.com. And you have a gift for everybody. It's an organizational checklist. Can you share that with everyone if they're curious?
Yeah. So this is based on EOS. They've created 20 questions basically to check, does your organization have the ability to scale currently as it's running today? And so what that organizational checkup does, it gives you these 20 questions to answer, from a scale of 1 to 5 on how you're doing today. Completely subjective to how you're running your business. And it gives you, hey, these are our strengths and these are our weaknesses. And kind of to Connie's point, now you know what you need to work on. And so, I highly suggest running through that, just to give a pulse of, where your business is at today and does it have the ability to scale to where you want it to be.
Yeah, because we could have great visions, but if we don't have the infrastructure in place, you ain't going anywhere, right? So it's great to dream, but what's the executional piece of it? And I think that's the important piece of the puzzle. Ryan, thanks so much for being on. I really do enjoy our time together. I love how smart you are, and you have a pulse on what's new and what's going on. And I also think that value driven and the cultural piece, I think a lot of organizations forget to build a culture. And without the culture, we really don't know who's on and who's out, or who wants to be on and who wants to be out. And it's okay if people opt out. There's too many organizations where I go, we don't want to lose anybody. Why? If the person doesn't want to do what you're asking them to do, they should have the right to opt out and say, this isn't for me. Thank you for our time together, but I need to move on, right? Give them a package, whatever it is. But why hold people hostage because it's your vision and this is what I need people to do? If they're not good at it or they don't want to do it, we got to find other jobs for them within the organization, or let them go with grace and love, because people should be thriving, not be zombies in life. That to me is not okay. Not an okay way to live, right?
I feel like, and I've heard these stories pop up from pretty big business owners, and you hit it right on the head, where instead of, you're fired, it's how can I help you transition out of something that you don't want to do? And like the best business owners, the ones who are very, very successful, they do that. That's the approach they take. They're human. And they say, hey, it seems like you're not really wanting to be here much anymore. And they're like, yeah, how'd you know, or whatever. And you have the conversation, say, hey, what do you want to do? And it's just a human way of like, all right, well, just want to make sure this works for the both of us. So, if you don't mind staying on for a few more weeks, I'll try to help you find a job somewhere else. If you don't mind training the person that we bring in to replace you, like, it works. Like, it can work like that. It doesn't need to be this like slash of like, you're fired and then everyone's hurt. So I really appreciate your mentality of from a love perspective. Just it doesn't need to be that way.
And it's funny because, like I have a huge network. So if you worked for me, Ryan, and you're like, Con, this isn't working. I go, all right, listen, let's come up with an exit plan, right? Stick with me. Let's actively hire someone, you train them. Meanwhile, keep actively looking, take time to interview, whatever you need. Tell me what you're looking for. I might know someone. It's not like we hate each other. It's you've outgrown the job. The job isn't what you want anymore. It wasn't what you had. Now you have a new degree. You want to execute. You want to go into teaching instead of sales, whatever it is. Why would I hold someone back? To me, that's mean. And it's just wrong. It's not being a good human, right? Like you ain't going to heaven with that one. But the reality is, why can't we help each other in this a situation where change has to happen, right? Change is communication and change are like, I think, two of my core values in life that I'm meant to like get on the rooftop and shout. You need to communicate and change is inevitable. Figure it out, right? Let's figure this out together. Anyway.
I love it.
Yeah, Ryan, thank you so much. And here's the deal, everybody. Check out the website, the email, and of course, use that free gift from Ryan, because it might be an eye-opener. It might be a blind spot, like my communication style assessment. This might provide a real eye-opening experience in saying, holy moly, I never thought of that. That's where I need to start. And it really could change the trajectory of the change you're looking for, but also from a profitability standpoint. Look, information, I say this every week, Ryan, information's a beautiful thing. If we do nothing with it, it's simply information. And that makes my brain hurt and my heart hurt, because if we can take something like this, take that assessment, that's an action, creates reaction, which creates magic. So if you're on a trajectory of the next 90 days doing X, and then you take this assessment and it says, no, actually, you shouldn't do X, you have to do Y first. All of a sudden, your profitability just went up because you had a blind spot you weren't aware of. We don't know what we don't know. So please take the assessment. It's a great action, easy action, by the way. And it's free and it's a gift. And all of these things, we can't help you anymore, right? Then bring the horse to water. Ryan and I cannot force you to drink for sure. Ryan, thank you so much. You're a brilliant young man. And I'm just truly honored to have you on the show. And I'm excited that you're in my life. And by the way, it's a Jersey guy. So that makes me even happier. He's local. I'm going to get to see the baby someday.
There we go. I told my mom about you. I was like, I met my second mom.
I love it. I love it.
So I appreciate it.
Hey, listen, I am who I am. You are who you are. And it's nice that we respect where we are in life. And that I don't, it's funny. I was told once by a millennial, right? We hate being labeled, but he called me his work mom. And I said, if I called you a work son, you'd be offended because I labeled you. Don't label me. I'm not here to be your mom, right? I'm here to be a leader for you or help you or whatever. But you know what? I honor that feeling from you because I'm learning from you, just like I learned from my kids as well. So I love that. I'm honored that you feel that way. So, and I'm glad you shared me with your mom too. So she and I have to meet now.
I literally told her, I was like, you two would get along so well. Just by the way, I heard you parent, and I know my mom parented the same way. So
I love it.
Yeah, again, I appreciate your time, and please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you and your friends.
Back at you, kiddo. You're stuck with me now.
Deal.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. And listen, I hope you'll join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are, and changing your sales game, changing your life, right? Let's get even deeper here. I truly hope my guests and I provide those tips, strategies, ideas. If you're interested, again, all the information for Ryan's in the show notes. My CSA, the communication style assessment, is in my link. Use these tools, guys. There are gifts to you to help you change your sales game. I love you all. I'm honored that you join me every week. And I hope that we together, my guests and I, with you, are changing your sales game and helping you make a more profitable, thriving, exciting life. We all deserve it. I love you. I'll see you next week. Have a great one, everyone. Thanks again, Ryan. Have a good one.